In this part of Module 5, we'll look at the external factors involved in making choices.
Why people consume. One main reason for consumption is to fulfill a person's self-induced need. You've convinced yourself that you need something, so you make a purchase. This woman, for example, has convinced herself that she needs 6-inch heels in order to look glamorous. Another primary reason for consumption is to find solutions to problems that a consumer has or they think they have. As we'll see, one of the primary techniques in advertising is to make you think there's something wrong. And if you buy my product, it'll fix it. There are 6 external factors that influence a consumer choice, and we'll look at these in detail. The first is the general culture, then the bounded or subculture, the economic class, the social group, the reference group, and finally, family and friends.
General culture. This refers to both the material and non-material elements that surround us. The material elements would include the products themselves, the stores, the advertisements. Non-material culture includes the way people shop and the way they respond to the advertisements. Shopping patterns, purchasing patterns vary from culture to culture. Over the past few decades, we've seen some major cultural shifts in general culture. First, there's been the development of the mall and the superstore. Then there's been the development of the internet. The growth of the mall and the superstore and the decline of mom and pop stores has really increased consumption. Instead of going to the store to buy a specific item, we now go to the mall or the superstore to shop. When I was a kid, there was a mom and pop grocery store across the street. I would go across the street to buy a loaf of bread for my parents or to buy some meat for dinner. I went with a specific item in mind, and I got that item, and I didn't get anything else. Nowadays, when we go to the grocery store, we're surrounded by store displays designed to trigger impulse buying. Very, very few people can go to a store, whether it's a superstore, a grocery store, or to a mall, and just purchase the item that they went there to purchase. Plus, as the general population has become more comfortable with internet purchasing, consumption has increased through that channel as well. Convenience has become an important asset to consumption. The next time you go to the mall, the next time you go to the grocery store, think about what you're purchasing. Think about why you're purchasing it. Is it because it's a need? Is it because it's a want? Another external factor is bounded culture. If you remember, these are our subcultures, and different strategies are needed to reach different subcultures, since some subcultures reject the general culture. For example, the marketing strategy for video games is highly specific to the gaming subculture. If you're a role-playing gamer, if you're into RPGs, you're probably not going to enjoy a first-person shooter. If you're a first-person shooter, you're not going to enjoy a game designed for a 10-year-old. Called micro-marketing, the trend is to design appeals to an ever narrower range of culture. The ultimate goal is to craft a unique message aimed at the smallest possible bounded culture, the individual. This ad for pony shoes is not going to resonate with the general public. It's designed for a very specific bounded culture.
Another important external factor that influences consumption is the economic class. People within the same general economic class have similar lifestyles and similar purchase patterns. This 1920s tobacco ad makes it clear the intended audience: upper class, sophisticated. But, as we'll talk about later on, this would also be attractive to someone who wants to be upper class and sophisticated. People also develop a sense of belonging within their economic class. Here are two advertisements for cars, separated by several decades. On the left, a hippie minivan. On the right, a Cadillac. Even though these ads are terribly outdated, we can still see at a glance the economic class that each ad was directed at. The left-hand side ad is going to be aimed at a young, middle-class, youth-oriented market. The right side, with the Cadillac, wealthier, more sophisticated market. But both of these ads emphasize the sense of belonging that you have when you own these two vehicles. This sense of belonging becomes a very important motivating factor. Now, economic class tends to have more influence than a subculture or a bounded culture, and that's because the peer group is larger. For example, middle-class blacks are more similar to middle-class whites in purchasing attitudes than they are to urban blacks. This ad for Hennessy could just as easily have had white men in it. Exact same positions, exact same class.